Sniping is something that is not only quintessential to Warzone, but the entire Battle Royale genre as a whole. Warzone sniping has seen a lot of ups and downs and some questionable decisions along the way. So today I wanted to share with you the entire history of sniping in Warzone. I know I already have an entire history of Warzone metas video, but in that video I only mentioned like 4 snipers, which I think was a huge oversight on my part, so I think a dedicated history of sniping video was necessary. There was way more snipers in Warzone than I remembered, so it was kind of nice to look back at some of the more off-meta snipers that were still viable. Comment your favorite sniper in Warzone down below. Let's go ahead and get this beloved creature out of the way. I know I just asked you guys to comment your favorite sniper down below, and I guarantee 90% of you said the Kar 98. This sniper was not only a ton of fun to use, but also very satisfying. You had a crazy ADS speed, ridiculous velocity, and a one-shot headshot any range. The Kar 98 remained in the forefront of Warzone 1's meta until the very end when they decided to nerf the one-shot range to like 40 meters, I think, which then pretty much only made it good for quick-scoping and resurgence and useless for actual long-range sniping. This has to be the #1 most requested gun to make a return to Warzone without a doubt. I think the XRK Stalker that we have now does a decent job fulfilling what the Kar 98 was like, but we truly have never seen another sniper like this since Warzone 1. They could easily bring it back and do something like how they do with the Stalker nowadays. Keep the same ADS speed, velocity, and handling, but just make the one-shot range something reasonable. I would argue that the HDR was yet another beloved sniper that didn't really last long. At launch, the thermal sniper scope was insanely useful and made anyone stick out like a sore thumb. Keep in mind, the HDR pretty much had no bullet drop and you only had to lead your shot very little, but pretty much had no adjustment to height. This made long-range sniping easier than ever before. Also, the raw damage of the HDR was pretty nice on its own as well. I'm pretty sure 2 chest shots would kill any fully plated enemy at any range, which is pretty nice considering how easy it was to use. However, just a few months after launch, they decided to nerf thermal scopes entirely by lowering the range of where you could see someone. I don't know the exact range, but I know at launch it was literally unlimited, or so it felt like. Like, you just had to aim down your sight and you would immediately see anyone no matter how far away they were, which was pretty wild. And then everyone started using cold-blooded to avoid this. But after the nerf, I don't even think it showed past 150 meters, which was a huge change. Throw on a couple velocity nerfs and this gun eventually lost its touch. It got to a point where there was seriously just no reason to use it when the Kar 98 was around. Kind of like, the nerfs to me just really didn't make sense. Like a lot of guns on this list, it would eventually make a comeback after the marksman rifle nerfs. The AX-50 was a little more niche during this state of the game. It was definitely meta, but HDR and Kar 98 were just the fan favorites in my opinion. It was kind of a hybrid between the two and still leaning much more towards the HDR side of things, but just much quicker and not as easy to use at range. It saw a similar fate once it came down to the thermal nerfs, which is also unfortunate. Just another case of no reason to use this gun when the Kar 98 was objectively better in every single way. Just like the HDR, once the marksman rifle nerfs happened, it kind of made a little bit of a comeback on Caldera. But being honest, I completely forgot about this gun entirely. This is probably the most unorthodox gun on this list, but if you really wanted to use it at any given point during Warzone 1, you could probably make it work. The AMR was a semi-automatic Barrett 50 cal sniper with awful mobility, average velocity, and a very slow ADS speed. So why am I even talking about it? Well, there was an option of adding thermite or explosive ammo that completely changed how you use snipers entirely. We have explosive ammo today for snipers since the launch of Warzone 2, but it was nothing like the explosive ammo for the Rytec. These rounds were like mini grenades and dealt actual splash damage if you completely missed your target. I think it dealt something like around the 200 damage for any shot that wasn't a headshot, including limbs. That means if your opponent had half their armor or was in the middle of replating, a shot to this gun with the explosive ammo would down them at any range, even if you're just hitting them in the toe. Also, the explosive ammo dealt extreme damage to vehicles. It can melt them before the drivers even realize they were being shot at a super far range. I think that was kind of the purpose of the explosive ammo, but using it on players was even more fun. Truck, helicopter, four-wheeler, Jeep, nothing was safe. The thermite, on the other hand, which to me was the lesser of the two, dealt residual damage after you hit them and also left little sparks of fire that a thermite grenade would leave behind. If you down someone with a headshot, the residual damage would leave them with only about 2/3 the health you would normally have when down, since the residual damage would kick in after being down, which was honestly pretty cool. With the explosive ammo and thermite ammo, it also decreased your velocity tremendously, which made it even more difficult to use, which certainly isn't helping its case whatsoever. In my opinion, I think the Rytec was fairly balanced since the pros and cons were kind of just like all over the place. It did have unlimited one-shot headshot down range up until the marksman rifles as well. I don't know why they decided to include this in those nerfs, but overall, I would love to see another sniper like this to return to Warzone. Just kind of a fun one to use. Here's a video that actually made it into my history of broken guns video. When it was introduced in season 6, it was bugged to be hit scan, and that is not an understatement. This gun truly had no bullet drop off or travel time and was the easiest sniper to use of all time, and I say that with confidence. I'm gonna make the same joke that I did in that video. It was like playing CSGO for like a week. It one shot to the head and was super quick and traveled across the map instantly. The only thing it doesn't do is aim for you. I don't know how this made into the game, especially since this was right after the thermal scopes nerf. You think they were trying to like polish how sniping went, but then this just somehow slips through the cracks, which is just kind of ridiculous. It was truly just dominating Verdansk until it was nerfed. I'm totally cool with snipers having near hit scan bullet velocity, but just don't let them one shot. They honestly shouldn't even two shot. I was really on the fence about including the DMR, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it since for a while it actually changed the way long-range engagements were done. Since the DMR was so broken, it honestly made sniping useless. There was just no reason to be using anything other than a DMR at long range. The only time sniping would be more beneficial is if you hit your very first shot before they could even see you. The DMR completely dictated sniping until it was finally nerfed, and this is honestly just like my most hated meta in Warzone. The Pellington was one of those guns that you really didn't know what you had until it was gone. This was like kind of a diet Car 98 at the time and was surprisingly very viable throughout Warzone 1. Fast ADS, one shot to the head, and amazing bullet velocity. I think if they had nerfed the Car 98 at the time, this would have been at the forefront of the meta. And I think a lot of people would use this before they had their loadout because it felt like you could find these all over the ground loot during the Cold War integration. I also think a lot of people were hesitant to try Cold War snipers out because of their clunkiness with how they felt once ported to the Modern Warfare engine. But if you could get over that, the Pellington was actually pretty good. It even got better after the Vanguard flinch resistance and damage nerfs and became statistically one of the best snipers for a while. The Tundra is in the same boat as the Pellington, where there were simply just better options at the time. I never used it in Warzone, but from the gameplay I've been watching, the recoil actually looked very smooth and made follow-up shots look very easy. People say it was almost hit scan, and looking at this video by Tim, I mean, it honestly does. This gun would also get better as other guns got nerfed. This gun acted very similar to the Rytec. Obviously, they were both a Barrett 50 cal variant. The M82 was pretty much the same gun minus the fun ammunition. The only major difference was that the recoil was very smooth on the M82. It too one shot to the head and two shot to the body out to like 100 meters, I think. So if semi-automatic sniping was more your thing, this probably could have worked out for you. Unfortunately, later on, this would also lose its one-shot headshot potential with nerfs. The ZRG became the kingpin for long-range sniping in Warzone 1. Low recoil, one-shot headshot, two-shot body shot to unlimited range, decent bullet velocity, and surprisingly good mobility for a long-range sniper. The only real drawbacks is it had a really long reload time that just took forever, and its default optic only being a 4x zoom would kind of made no sense. But if you swap that out to something like way over the top, like the 20x scope that came out at the time, you could dominate the long-range encounters. This gun objectively was way better than the HDR and finally gave us a decent bolt-action long-range sniper that was great all around. Here's where people will start a civil war in the comments. A lot of people swear up and down that the Swiss K3 was better than the Car 98, but if I'm being honest, I don't think one is objectively better than the other. I think it truly just comes down to preference. Maybe the Car 98's a little better. The guns were pretty much the same, only I think the Swiss K31 had a little bit of a better sound. Crazy fast ADS, insane velocity, quick rate of fire, great mobility, one-shot headshot until the nerf, and a fast reload. This was neck and neck with the Car 98 on Rebirth Island. Everything I said about the Car 98 can also be said about the Swiss K3. All I want is just another marksman rifle like these in Warzone today. You know when people use clickbait titles for their gameplay with buzzwords like one-shot sniper, or two-shot shotgun, or three-shot DMR, and you click on the video and it's just like a straight-up lie? Well, the Type 99, yes, one-shots to the head. However, there was a bug with the Vital perk, which increased the size of the critical hit points or something, that made this gun one-shot to the chest up to 44 meters. I personally never really used this gun since, well, this was Vanguard Warzone after all, but after watching gameplay, it looked pretty decent, but outside of this bug, there really was no reason to use it. As far as I know, this is the only sniper that's ever been able to one-shot without a headshot in Warzone history. Please comment if I have that wrong. This was another Car 98 wannabe that was honestly pretty common with the ground loot, so you probably used it at some point or another if you were playing the game. But like most guns on this list, there were just better guns to use. Definitely viable, and maybe if it tickled you the right way, you could make it work. However, I do think it's worth noting that this gun dodged all the nerfs and remained a one-shot at any range for the rest of Warzone 1. This was an extremely redundant addition to Warzone. We already had a Car 98 that everyone loved, so I don't know why they decided to add a second. The only real differences were that the Vanguard car didn't support Modern Warfare attachments, which was kind of a big deal since those attachments were objectively better for sniping. Other than that, these guns were pretty much the same, really just dealer's choice at this point. This was pretty much a World War II Barrett 50 cal. Semi-automatic, one shot to the head, decent mobility, and the only real drawback was its velocity and bullet drop. Other than that, this was one of the better sniping options at the time. This gun also dodged all the nerfs and was able to one-shot at any range throughout the rest of Warzone 1 too. I think after the Kar 98 and Swiss nerfs, people were so fixated and in denial about them still being good, so a lot of people kind of overlooked the Gorenko. It was used a decent bit, but definitely not as much as it should have been. Now with Warzone 2, we know that for the longest time, one-shot snipers wouldn't be a thing at all. However, at launch, the Vicus had a bug where if you used the explosive ammo, it would allow a one-shot no matter what the range was. I kid you not, this only lasted for like 4 days, but people definitely made the most out of it. For the remainder of Warzone 2, I used the Vicus as my sniper since you could kit it out to be practically hit scan and would 2-tap into the chest at any range. All you really had to do was just hit your shots. Even after they allowed it to one-shot with explosive ammo, I still didn't use the one-shot build simply because of how much more difficult and different the velocity was. It was seriously like shooting a Minecraft bow. The Signal 50 was a semi-automatic sniper that at launch would 2-tap to the torso. The rate of fire is one of the fastest we've seen from any sniper in Warzone, and for a game with no one-shot sniping at the time, it was pretty broken. I honestly hated getting killed by this since it pretty much felt like you were getting one-shot killed, only you weren't. The only real challenge the player had to overcome was the recoil. It was a decent amount, but once you felt comfortable with the pattern, this thing was broken. I think they nerfed it with the Season 2 patch, and it has honestly become very useless ever since. I'm not even joking, it might be a 4-shot in Warzone 3 right now. Once one-shot sniping was added through the explosive ammo buff, this was the go-to gun for everyone when it came to that. I honestly didn't think it was worth using since, like I said earlier, the velocity was just awful, but if you really wanted a one-shot sniping experience in Warzone 2, this is what you would use. It was quick, had a solid optic, and came with a default 10-round magazine, which was pretty nice. I would not use this gun unless you were using it with the explosive ammo. It was deemed useless otherwise. This was supposed to be the rebirth of the intervention, but I don't think I've ever been so let down by a gun before in my life. This thing was mid at best and still has no place in Warzone even with its one-shot potential. Also, the fact that you had to pay for the original intervention sound was just disrespectful. This is the launch one-shot sniper of Warzone 3, and it is the first true one-shot headshot sniper with no catch, exploit, range falloff, or secret attachment necessary. This is what the community asked for, and we finally got it. The only real catch, even if you want to call it, was that its super slow mobility and the velocity not being the greatest. I think if a sniper is going to one-shot any range, there has to be some type of sacrifice so people aren't going to use the same exact gun. If you want to call it a problem, that's kind of what was going on in Warzone 1. Like, there was a lot of good snipers, but people would just use the Kar 98 because it was objectively the best. Basically, it gives sniping a little bit more variety, kind of like you do with the regular gun metas. The Stalker was introduced alongside Warzone 1, but had no one-shot potential until Season 2 of the game. It has a base range of 50 meters for a one-shot, but currently the max range for a one-shot with the right attachments is around 80 meters, I believe, and you don't even have to use explosive ammo, which is the best part about it. Without the explosive ammo, you have an insane velocity for a one-shot build, and it's truly the closest thing we've seen to a Kar 98 ripoff. I really like the current state of sniping since no one category is perfect, and you actually have to think about which sniper you want to run. Although we have two pretty good options right now, they're both fairly balanced in their own way. You can have the easy to use but not always one shot, or the harder to use but guarantee a one shot. If you're a Surgeons player, you'll probably lean toward the Stalker, and if you're a Battle Royale player, the Cat AMR is probably more your style. You can still find success in each mode with either gun. But that's the entire history of sniping in Warzone. Go ahead and comment your favorite sniper down below. Also, let me know if you forgot about any of these, because before making this video, I know I had for sure. The Rytech explosive rounds, that is something that just completely skipped my mind. Check out some of my other Warzone history videos. Stop by one of my live streams right here on YouTube. You don't even have to go to another app. Join my Discord if you're feeling crazy. And if you liked, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Comment if you'd like. And thank you so much for watching.